Hey everyone, Colin from Gaming Through the Ages here. As a kid, I was always a Nintendo kid. I got a Game Boy Color for my 5th birthday. My first game ever was Pokemon Red. I got a PlayStation, but that was only really to play Digimon games and Tony Hawk. It's when I got a GameCube that I really explored my love for JRPGs and platformers and strategy games. I got a PS2 eventually, but that was more for the Tales games. That was more for Final Fantasy X. That was more for some Star Wars games. I never really got to explore the mascots, like Jak and Daxter, Sly Cooper, Ratchet and Clank. I played the first Jak and Daxter game, and I played the first Sly Cooper game. I really loved the first Sly Cooper game, but I'd never experienced Ratchet and Clank before, so I figured I would try the PS4 game. This isn't the original PS2 game, I know that, but I do know that it's a bit of a remake of it, and it's a reimagining of the movie. More important, I'm fairly certain that the PS5 game is set in the same continuity, and I definitely want to check that game out at some point, so I thought that this game would give me a good foundation to explore the rest of the series. Is Ratchet and Clank worth it? Is Ratchet and Clank a mascot that deserves to live on in the gaming consciousness? Let's get into it.
Ratchet and Clank is, as the back of the box puts it, a game based on the movie based on the game. As far as I can tell, it's also functionally a remake of the first game that creates a new continuity. You play as Ratchet, a Lombax working in a garage who wants nothing more than to join the Galactic Rangers, this universe's set of superheroes. Luckily, they're holding tryouts on his planet, which he passes, but Ratchet is weak and puny, and thus rejected. Afterwards, Ratchet discovers Clank in a shipwreck, a defective warbot, who kind of sucks at fighting, but his strengths lie in his cognitive abilities. In other words, the direct opposite of a warbot. While you play as Clank at a few stages, his real purpose is to provide Ratchet with numerous upgrades, which you'll unlock throughout the game. As the story progresses, you'll learn that Chairman Drek, leader of the Blarg, has been invading other planets in order to gather up resources to literally make the perfect planet for his own people. It is your job to stop Drek and the Blarg. The game will ask you to go from planet to planet. On each planet, you'll find a number of objectives to complete, from fighting back against the Blarg to exploring a new area or completing a platforming challenge. While this game is a platformer, without a doubt, the focus of the core gameplay is on its action mechanics. Ratchet can attack enemies at melee range with his Ratchet, I suppose, but he also has a large arsenal of guns. You start off pretty limited in the beginning, having only a standard gun and a set of grenades, but as you progress through, you unlock access to guns that do all sorts of wacky things, like shooting buzzsaws, making enemies dance, or turning enemies into sheep. My endgame selection included a big old rocket launcher, a sniper rifle that highlights enemy weak points, your standard gun that I had upgraded 100%, and my favorite weapon, Mr. Zurkon. Clank is not your best friend in the game. Clank hangs out on your back and doing not a damn thing to help you while you're getting shot at. You know who has your back? Mr. Zurkon. Mr. Zurkon is here to do one thing and one thing only: kill aliens. Doesn't matter which alien. Doesn't matter how many aliens. Mr. Zurkon will kill them. It's his raison d'etre. The only thing that brings him joy, which you know because killing aliens is the only thing Mr. Zurkon talks about. But summoning him against an entire horde of aliens and watching him plow through them is immensely satisfying, and is why he quickly became a staple in my loadout. He even helped me against the boss, Mrs. Zurkon. I don't know if these two robots are husband and wife or what, but I do know one thing. Mr. Zurkon is ready to kill. Mr. Zurkon is your best combat ally, though. Clank is there for you when it counts for platforming. Throughout the game, Clank will get upgrades to his toolkit, allowing Ratchet to jump higher, or glide through the air for a short time, or to make a long jump. These upgrades allow the platforming challenges to become a little more complex than simply running and jumping, but I do want to stress the little bit. I cannot recall a single case when I found a platforming challenge to be difficult. Fun? Yeah, sure, but not particularly challenging or frustrating. The focus of the game is more on the combat, I feel, rather than the platforming, and it is in the combat where you can feel a sense of urgency and difficulty. In the beginning, enemies are just your standard grunts, and you can take them out pretty easily with a few shots or with a swing of your ratchet. As your arsenal increases, though, so too does the complexity of the enemies you face. Particularly in the later half of the game, I found I couldn't just run in guns a-blazing anymore. I had to be strategic. Maybe I can snipe enemies from afar here, throw a grenade over there, and then switch to my standard gun. Maybe I should take these enemies out with melee to preserve ammo, and then switch to my rocket launcher to take out the big helicopters. These fights can be brutal. Enemies spawning where you can't really see, bullets coming at you fast. These later encounters require that you show mastery of the systems. And to be honest, some of them can be frustrating when you've died for the 4th or 5th time, but the checkpoints in the levels are usually pretty generous, allowing you to jump back into the fray with minimal downtime. When you finally get it, the sense of accomplishment is palpable. And something we should talk about, though, is the weapon upgrading system. As you use a weapon to kill enemies, an experience bar grows. Upon killing enough, your weapon gains a level. At base, it gains the ability to do more damage. When the weapon reaches level 5, it is maxed out. Its name changes and additional function is added. For example, the standard blaster starts to shoot 3 shots instead of 1, and its name is changed to the Magma Buster. However, this isn't the only way to upgrade your weapon. As you kill enemies in boxes, you gain access to Raritanium. 1 shard of Raritanium allows you to pick a minor weapon increase in a grid that each weapon possesses, in a vein similar to picking a talent point in classic World of Warcraft. You can use these to unlock more max ammo for a weapon or damage increases, but sometimes the effects are even more substantial. First, the pros for this system. This system rewards you for using your weapons. More importantly, it gives the player a feeling of progress over time. You can feel it when your weapons are upgraded because enemies die that much faster, which is helpful given the more challenging encounters later in the game. It also gives the player a goal to strive for in the midst of gameplay. The mission will provide one objective, sure, but that objective essentially amounts to get to the end of the stage. While playing the stage, though, the player can choose to favor this weapon or that weapon in the hopes of leveling it up, or in the hopes of getting that one last upgrade done to unlock a more substantial one. It's a great way of allowing the player to make more active choices that impact his or her own gameplay while keeping the game's linear structure intact. On the flip side, I do think that this system discourages weapon experimentation. You do not get enough Raritanium to fully upgrade all of your weapons in one playthrough. As such, even though some of the weapons you get at the end of the game look really cool, I didn't feel like I should use them, because I already had my tried and true weapons that I had been working on throughout the course of the game. For a player like me, that doesn't tend to replay the same game over and over again, this is an unfortunate side effect. For those players who will do things like play through the challenge mode or want to go and level up all of the weapons, then the opposite is true. The leveling up system gives each new playthrough a sense of variation and progress. Instead of just using your same loadout, you can throw together an entirely different toolkit and see what difference it makes to various encounters and boss fights. You'll notice that I didn't talk much about anything else but gameplay in this review. This is because the story itself is, in my opinion, a bit hard to write about. Now, how close the story is to the movie, I have absolutely no idea. I did not watch the movie, and the review scores when I Google it suggest that I should not watch the movie. I suspect that it's a pretty close adaptation, though, because whenever there's a big CGI cutscene, the PlayStation 5 attempts to block the recording, even though capture cards don't give a rat's ass about that. I have to say that the graphics for the cutscenes are gorgeous, and that goes for the whole game too. But the plot itself only really goes skin deep. It's a serviceable enough plot with witty dialogue to keep the pace moving, and the cutscenes are enjoyable to watch for sure. And Captain Quark is a fantastically written character that I just kept wanting to see more of. Yet now as I sit down to write the script a few days after finishing the game, I find myself struggling to remember any specific plot points or other characters. The plot is serviceable, but it's only a wrapper to provide context to the gameplay. So what are my thoughts on Ratchet and Clank to sum it all up? It is a technically good game. And when I say technically, I don't mean it in the way that you might use it in an argument in middle school. Technically, this is a good game. I mean that the game is well designed, the systems cohere together and complement one another, the game's graphics are gorgeous, and I had a fun time playing. At the same time, I do think that the game fails to leave an impression once you walk away from the experience. This script took longer than usual to write, and not because it's a lengthier script, but because I had to keep walking away to remember what other aspects I should talk about, and I know that there's stuff that I haven't. This is a game that leaves a good impression as an overall product, but I can't point to anything particularly special about it. Should someone play it? Yeah, sure. But this isn't a game that every gamer must play to consider themselves to be a true gamer either.
So, am I glad that I played Ratchet and Clank? Yeah, I am. It doesn't leave that big of an impression on me. Now, I'm happy that when I eventually play the PS5 game, I'll have this under my belt, and I definitely want to play the PS5 game. But on the whole, it's nothing really to write home about. It's a good game. It's a fun game. It's a great game. But it's nothing that I think I'm ever going to revisit and play again. That being said, next week, we're going to play a longer game, Shadowverse Champions Battle. Do you like trading card games? Well, if you want to play that game, I hope that you do, because that's all you'll be doing. Thanks everybody for watching this video. If you like what you saw, please go ahead, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment, hit the like button, share it with a friend if you can. I'd appreciate it. Have a great day.